Welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. This is Truth, Freedom, and Sophia with your host, Sophia. Shout out to super producer Cindy Ashby. All of our shows are live on onthewakeupradio.com. You can catch our replays on SoundCloud, Google, and Apple, Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at On the Wake Up Radio. Also, support us on PayPal /onthewakeupradio@gmail.com. Also, check out our new streaming site, otwtube.com, where you can catch all of our videos. And also, donate on Cash App at $ on the Wake Up Radio. And again, find us on onthewakeupradio.com. Thanks to my guests who are joining me tonight, Shiloh and Dylan. They are the co-owners of Wheeler's Wild Ones, a plant-based passionate business. Dylan is a former landscaper, and he has a background in natural plant medicines. Shiloh has her degree in social science with an emphasis in psychology, criminal justice, and gender studies. She's also a survivor of sexual violence, and after receiving psychiatric treatment to deal with that trauma, she began working as an intentional peer support specialist. So thank you guys both for being with me again tonight. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we're glad to be here. We're excited to dive into this topic tonight.
Barbie doll just flung off. Water bottle. Excuse me. So I had to just take a sip of water. I'm like really dehydrated lately, no matter what I do. It just is bizarre. And I don't like to over drink water because I only drink water anyways. But tonight, I was excited to have you guys on with me because we've really been trying to meet up to talk anyways about kind of the subject, theme park culture, addiction, and kind of the reason we're in the situation we're in our culture, in our society. Mm-hmm. And like, I kind of don't even know where to begin. So I'm going to start by saying, like, I think a lot of us know, whether you are intuitive or not, that something just isn't right now. Like something is wrong, drastically wrong in our society. And I think it is this theme park culture kind of coming to a head where, for me, in my opinion, I don't say my opinion isn't all God's truth, but in my opinion, I think this is the root of a majority of the mental illness. You know what I mean? Because I think we are living a lifestyle where everything's an attraction. Everything is focused on instant gratification, feeling good in the moment, like doing what feels good, not what is good. And I think it's led to a real collapse, a mental collapse, a moral collapse in our society. So now there's like this, the manifestation of like the split personality, I feel like is shown itself. And it's kind of really sad, but I think talking about these things, realizing them, is what will heal society and help get these conversations flowing and just get some introspection going. Mm-hmm. Start doing some inventory for our, for me, I always do this kind of inventory no matter where I'm at, because I can always use that reboot. But I feel like we're all kind of living in this like illusion where everyone's kind of living in this my truth situation, but your truth isn't good for anybody if you're not able to perceive real truth and you're not able to really interact in real reality. And I feel like that's what we're not doing. We're not interacting in real reality. We're interacting on this very surface level. Everything is like a projection because it's through the social media, or you've got tons of makeup to cover up whatever. It's like there's a lot of ways to wear a mask nowadays, and it's sad. So
yeah, no, I completely agree. There's a lot of distractions, I feel like, in a lot of places that are basically trapping us as humans and as a society into a place of, like you're saying, just instant gratification. Like the ability to discern information right now, I feel like isn't there for a lot of different reasons in society in general, like because of what you're saying, technology right now. We don't really have the ability to meet up and have a, conversation. So when, you're talking to someone, you're talking to an audience, like tone can get super like misconstrued or misconceived. Like when you're texting someone, I'm sure you can relate. You text somebody this like long thing and
The main problem.
Yeah, you're conveying certain type of emotion. You totally think like you got it over a certain way, and they receive it and their response is something completely different than you imagined, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's not what I meant at all. I'm so sorry that came off that way. And now it's all damage control, trying to like, oh man, how did they perceive what I said coming across? And I feel like there's so many different levels of that. I mean, it's easy to do over text, but because of how multifaceted I think the levels of destruction, I think, in all these different arenas socially is what's really like trapping us into this, what only makes me happy right now and doesn't like look towards the future of solution, rather than just like, you know, just for the time being, like we're just going to pretend like nothing's going on in the world and that there isn't just cataclysm actually happening without any of us really being able to see it every day on the news. But it's just what we've been shown these last, you know, this last year is what we only think is happening, when there's so much more corruption happening than we can even see on the news. So that was kind of where I
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have anything you wanted to jump in and say really quick?
Yeah, I was just gonna say like the discernment is really big, and just like Shiloh was saying, was the level of people that don't know how or even know what level of discernment to apply to different situations with how fast everything's moving forward in the political scene and just the world and how everything's going. Things are just moving so rapidly that people are having to keep up with the pace, and there's different levels of categories of discernment, and some people aren't aware of those different categories and how to even apply to tell the difference between what's going on. And so because it's speeding up so rapidly, I feel like we're having to pick up kind of like the slack to come, and you know, we have to keep up with them. And if we don't keep up with all the things that are going on in the world, just, you know, with health and politics, and
it's like there's all these puzzle pieces. There's this big picture and all these puzzle pieces, but if you don't know how many pieces are to the puzzle, you can't complete the picture. And so it's like, I feel like it's this big puzzle with just 1,000 pieces, but you don't really know where they all are. It's just all scattered around, and you're just trying to pick it all up, you know?
Yeah, in fact, that's a perfect transition into, I was going to say, the reason I think this is the epidemic of our time is that we don't have a connection. Or when I say we, I got to say, I exclude myself and you guys, but majority, the masses, they don't have a connection to their intuition. And it's because they've done such a flawless job at getting you to not care about paying attention to that, at getting you to like we just said, the instant gratification, to care more about what's appeasing to like the carnal self versus what might be the best for you, best for your future, best for every person, best, you know what I mean? In balance. There's no balance with that kind of physical and spiritual aspect. Most people have no connection to it. And we got to kind of ask ourselves, like, how did we get here? Where did it begin? For me, through my research, I think it began, 7,500 BC, when we stopped moving around and we started to really become like a domesticated human. We started staying still. Like, I've been doing a lot of research about like the historic human, like the mentality of it, the brain chemicals, and our dope. We used to survive off of dopamine. That's how we survived. We survived off of our, dopamine through hunting, through moving, through traveling and seeing new places. Like, you camp for a month or two, and you visit that place, you hunt, you gather, then they move on. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do all that, but it actually does make a lot more sense that we're still now, and we're getting more and more still. If you think about it, we're getting less and less self-reliant as well. So that also has a lot to do with it. And it does, it almost, I hate to say it, like, it's like the theme park, it feels like we're becoming a domesticated animal of some sort, where they're molding us, manipulating us through some sort of gratification, reward, like system. And I am a believer in capitalism, but we're not living in capitalism anymore. We're living in a corporate, like pharmaceutical corporatocracy, technocracy situation where it's not anything that's good for you that's being promoted. It's everything that it feeds off everything that makes you feel bad, everything that makes you feel lack. And then they fill you with more lack. They tell you you're lacking more and more and more so that they can get you to buy their stuff or get into the whatever program. And it's interesting to make that tally, how we used to be traveling humans, and like the more still we're getting, the more stagnant our brain's getting. And then you think about where drugs come into play, where addiction comes into play. I suffered from addiction for probably 6 years. It was a gradual thing, you know what I mean? It's like you have a predisposition to something because you dilly-dally, then something happens to you, and then it becomes a constant in your life. But that was one of the most scariest things to have to confront, not because I was afraid of like the physical aspects. It was a mental obsession. You feel like you can't function in life. And I really correlate that to a lot of the things I see just in general in life, the obsession, the dependence, the not having confidence that you can get through a day or survival without being reliant on something else. It's a sad, depressing thing. And then what did they do? They give us little dopamine fixes by clicks and porno and all these like eye pleasure, pleasure, physical pleasure. And I feel like it's really something we can turn around. I just feel like all people have to do is say, like, I don't want that. I don't want to be controlled by outside sources, manipulating my brain chemicals, manipulating my self-esteem, manipulating, just everything around you. Health, they use health against us too. It's so sad. They use it like for vanity now. It's like people aren't healthy because they want to be really healthy and connected. They want to just look a certain way, It's interesting. It's something I really want to dissect.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree too. What you shared about your addiction, that I for 4 or 5 years was on SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And so that really starts to, once you become dependent on a chemical like that, similar to chemicals that shift the dopamine in your brain, like your brain is not able to start producing those chemicals on your own. It's now dependent on that chemical. And I feel like in reality today, like a lot of us are constantly chemical dependent, and not just on, medication, just like you're saying, on everything, like technology, corporations, just our way of life has seriously been domesticated, where we are living now in a smaller box than we did before. And the scariest thing that I've seen just with the signs is just the virtual reality aspect of it. That's the scariest thing in my eyes, because it's just shifting closer and closer and closer towards the progression of us never getting up, never moving around, strapping on a device to our head, and honestly always just getting that download from, different devices instead of actual like intuition and connecting within. And we're always going to be looking for that outside source. And I believe too that we can reverse that. It's just the consent of in the non-complicity of it too. And so I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, because that's like the scariest aspect is, taking advantage of our food and getting on medications, and we're already getting so like winded down and so just shut and so just lazy in life and lethargic. And then you bring in that virtual reality aspect of it, putting that on, and then, sitting there and getting simulated these things of going into nature and going in and experiencing these things that you could actually go and get that physical experience, but rather it's a mind altering thing to make you feel that you're going on that, you know, that roller coaster. You put on that headset, you feel like you're going down, you feel like you're going up, but now you don't have to go experience that. So how many things are going to get shut down, or how many services are going to no longer be in operation anymore because you can just experience it in the virtual world? And that's where it goes with all the Bitcoin and all the new NFTs, the non-fungible tokens, where you can literally buy the signed copy of something in a game so that you can own it and nobody else can own it when you're in the game. And so it's like it's getting bad.
That is something that's very new. That
you can like buy land in a video game, basically.
There's literal plots of land.
Yes,
There's literal plots of land.
It is unreal.
They've got these virtual worlds literally gridded out, where you can go in and purchase the plot of land for like $9,000 US. And so once they're all sold out, they sell your name in there too. So like they, like let's say like famous basketball players, the people will go in, make their name as that in-game thing, and then they'll jack the price up to like $40,000. So when that basketball player starts doing VR, he has to go spend 40 grand to get his name. You'll be nameless if you don't spend the money to get your human or your birth certificate name. You're going to have to be like Sophia 5255, like, you know, but you're going to even have to spend money on that too.
Name, yeah.
And so it's all going to be charged. It's all going to be that. And that's what, you know.
The definition on Wikipedia says non-fungible tokens is a digital file whose unique identity and ownership are verified on a blockchain. Non-fungible tokens are not mutually interchangeable. An NFT is created by uploading another file, such as a digital artwork, to an auction market. And so it's already become monopolized because we had decided to look more into it, and we have seen that there are already kind of these types of monopolies within the platform where there's only specific services that do specific things if you want to buy certain items. And so it's so just digital, and
where we see Bitcoin, it just hit an all-time high. I think about 5 hours ago, it's up to $62,000. It hit 62 grand a piece. And it just shows to me, it just keeps, you just watch it keep going and going up. And like, you hope for that like kind of crash in a sense, because that's all the digital like world, all that stuff. But every day, every week, every month, Bitcoin just keeps going up and up. It seems as if
it sounds like people are investing more and more in the digital realm than they are in their personal life, like to the point. See, like this is something I never could understand. I was a person, I grew up, I played Nintendo, I played Duck Hunt, like I played video games, but I never was like obsessed with them. And I when I remember when my brother first started getting into video games, it was when they were first with the headsets. Like even that, like, it's just weird to me because I'm like, oh, now everyone just sits home and they just played their video game in their house. Like I could already just see it, and that was like 20 years ago. Like just I could see like it growing, and now it's like a lot of people, like they invest a lot of their time and life. Like they meet every day with certain people, and that's sad to me. To me, it's so sad to think that people live for this, to wake up, go to somewhere they don't really want to be for 8 to 9, 12 hours a day, just to look forward to going home and going on a video game and doing that every day. That is your everyday life. You know what I mean? That's not a life. Like, so when you really step back and you really look at the way the majority of people live, it's a sick society. It's a sick society. And that's why they promote things like alcohol. That's why alcohol is like so promoted in our society, and everything that is promoted is, all vice driven things. It's because they need us, ready? This is part of it too. I just found this out, to move from our right brain, because our right brain is connected to our intuition. So all of those things, they pull you out of your right brain. And then also, if they disconnect us from our intuition, then we'll be only in our brain, which means our brains can be tricked. That's why virtual reality is so attractive to people, because your brain is easily tricked. Put the right stuff in front of it, it's tricked just through the eyes. But your intuition, it can't be tricked. It's an instinct, and that's actually in our DNA. Our DNA has, right? I wrote this down because I'm thinking we've survived floods, battles, predators, all of these things only through relying on our instinct and our intuition. And now here we are, friggin' into the future, and we're like, I don't know if you guys ended up watching it, but we're like Idiocracy, the movie Idiocracy, where they made this movie where they showed how like humans were supposed to get smarter over time, but because of the way we live, we got dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber to like the point where our society was just gross and dumb. So a guy was cryo frozen and he woke up in the future and he was like really dumb at his time, and he was the smartest man on earth because he woke up in that future. It's a funny movie, but I feel like we're living in it. That we're like the dumbest, sickest things are promoted, celebrated, and like the things that promote depth, promote love, promote compassion, promote connection, they're like scoffed at. Like is it like boring, horrible things? And when you bring up virtual reality, I actually believe we have that ability. And I like we've said before, we're a devolved species, but I bet we have that ability. I bet we could all meet in a dimension, truly, if we knew how to access those parts of our brain. So you have to think like, how far down the line are we with like our brain being shut off, our certain pathways being shut off, certain parts of our DNA being deactivated. It just really makes me like, I get excited because I'm like, oh, we're so magical, we're so awesome. And then I get like sad because I think there's definitely a plot that needs to be acknowledged behind this. And that's what a lot of people don't want to do. They don't want to acknowledge the plot behind all of these things.
Right. It's really hard to, because like a lot of people, they start to go down, I guess, a rabbit hole per se, and they start to learn all of this information about a certain subject, and they go, wow, so that part of my life that I've learned to be true, or those aspects of, reality or history that I've learned, like, wow, that was all a lie. And then they start to go into different aspects of different, things in society, and they go, oh, well, that wasn't true, and that wasn't true, and that wasn't true, and that wasn't true. And for some people I've seen, it gets really like unmotivating. Like, I can relate, of course. It's dark, it's unmotivating, it's not fun. It makes you feel like you're insignificant in this world. And I feel like that's only because of the way that it is framed in media. If we
perfectly stated, yes.
If we frame that we are on a destructive, I believe that we are on a path of which we have two roads to decide between, one negative and one positive. But if we just continue to focus on that negative path, that's when I feel like we lose a lot of the motivation of people who are interested in learning the information that we like to dive into, because it gets the lines get blurred, I feel like, between like popular media and alternative media, because even when you go on popular to alternative, sometimes they're both negative, and it's like, man, where can we find the hope or the solutions to work towards a future that is not on the path that is almost guaranteed to happen because of how quickly it's progressing? And so I feel like, oh, go ahead.
No, finish.
I was just gonna say, I think like it's become really difficult and really stagnant for a lot of people to continue to have the motivation to either wake themselves up or wake other people up, or to wake up at all, because of how draining, I guess, it becomes in so many different aspects, because there's so many different layers.
There's so many different illusions and the trickery, and what you learn something that is true, and then you start going into other aspects or other videos or other people or articles, and then if they write a good enough lie, and then you're like, oh, that's true too, and then you don't notice that, and you put that like in your memory, and then you continue to go on through, and then if you find out that wasn't true, it's so hard to break that connection that you already basically found out that before it was a lie, and then you believed it was truth, and then you found out that truth is now a lie, and now you don't know what to believe because it was all a lie all along.
That just happened to me with a lot of my the ufologists I followed my whole life. Like I've retold a lot of their stories. Like I really believe them. I just recently found out that a lot of them were also psyops. They were real contactees, but they were contactees, and the government accrued them and then gave them to put misinformation out there so that we didn't know the real story. And I like just found this out 3 days ago, so I'm like really sad. A lot of the huge people, Damsky, he has like a whole files like that's like a lot of the UFO research is based on his files, his research, his contact that he had. And it really messes with you because, again, this is what's important. And I'm glad you just brought that other thing up about using the information and then feeling powerless afterwards, right? Like that's basically, they use the information against us. So I think that's what they do when they know we're starting to pick up on things, or certain information is becoming popular, passed around, it's picking up speed. They'll hijack it, or they'll create like another pathway for that information, and they'll use it to disempower you, to steal your power, and they hijack it, and then they, like you said, then they'll use it to stream in little bits of disinformation that blends very beautifully with the truth, so that our instincts aren't going to pick up on it because there's no out of alignment. It's in alignment with the truth, but it's not the truth. And I'm glad you both brought up really good points. But that's another thing to it, where we are, as researchers and people who do radio shows or reach other people, we have to constantly to ask ourselves, when we're passing information, what is my goal in passing this information? Is it to show that I have this information, or is it to really accomplish something? Because if it's to really accomplish something, you're going to make sure you do present it in the way that the translation hits. But a lot of people, they don't realize this, that we do all get wrapped up in this social media life, and we want the likes and we want the things. So we have to, ask yourself. I find myself sometimes when I start looking at my phone too much, that's when I'll put it up on the 3rd floor and I'll just go downstairs because I know I'm having an issue that day. Right? It's not about saying I don't have issues. It's about saying I have issues, but I just know how to keep them in check or stop them before they start ruining my life or my day or whatever, my frequency. So that was a really important aspect that you just brought up, because we don't want to do that. We don't want to disempower people. We don't want to add to the negative aspects and the feeling of not being sovereign, of not having any control. We don't want to add to that.
Yeah, I agree too. You brought up a really good point that made me think of, like, when you're delivering information, what is the goal when you're delivering a certain piece of information? I, in my life, many times have heard something that somebody has said, and in my mind go, okay, from my knowledge and what I've researched and learned, that is not what I know to be accurate. But depending on the level of the information that they're conveying to me, I stop and I try to think, if I try to correct this person, is this going to be productive for us in this conversation? Is it going to be productive for them? Do I feel like there's going to be a realistic ability to persuade their thinking to be more open-minded about the subject? Or is this going to do a lot more damage in all aspects, and this is going to completely shatter their reality? And in addition, I don't have information to do that damage control and say, it's okay. I know that it's really disappointing that information that you learned recently was true, but here is this information that I learned after researching this, and maybe this is the solution that we can work towards, because, it's not fun when you find out things are a lie. Like, it's not fun. And so it's so hard to be able to meet in the middle with people and say, I know that information that they're telling me is not true, but how do I shape it in a way that we can come to an agreement that we're going to be neutral on the misunderstanding previously, and then try to move forward towards a solution that might not just help us, but other people around us who are also confused about the misinformation that's continuously progressing, and not just on the media, but on all aspects of social media. And in addition to different organizations and different big name celebrities or big name influencers or big name profiles, like a lot of the information that is promoted on a lot of Instagram influencers profiles, all of those products that they promote, a lot of times they don't even use those products. And so it's basically just trying to psychologically operate our society into this little box, and like you were saying, like a theme park, domesticating us to just think one way or just to look one place for information.
It's like, hey, you're lacking this. Oh, I have something for that. Come over here. Come over here. Oh, you want to feel pretty today? Oh, come over here. Oh, you want to feel like a sexy man? Oh, this is what, you know what I mean? It's like they've got, it's just, there's no real essence. There's no link to that true essence, that spiritual connection. And I don't know if I just cut you off. I'm sorry.
No.
But what you were saying really struck with me, because a lot of people are like influencers, and when I think what you just said was so perfect about meeting people like with that have conflicting information, because this is important. Because if you, like we say, if the goal is to have a meeting of meaning, not have this, you are saying this, so one of us got to be right? You don't want to do that, because when someone does it, but people have done it to me. They'll say to me about something that inside I know what the truth is, but they'll say, did you know X, 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 and X, right? And I'll say, I won't say, oh, no, but I believe this. I'll just say, oh, no, I never knew that. I'll look it up. I'll research it. And then that gives me an opening to start sharing what I already know, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to meet things that are in alignment with what the person already believes, so they feel like you respect, because it's about respect. They feel like you respect what they have to say, and you respect their intellect, that they can have, they can know something. Like, it's not, I think that's where a lot of people are struggling, where everyone wants to be perceived again as these things, and they don't know what it really means. So it's like they're trying to fulfill an ideal, and when something challenges like that view of themselves, so like when we challenge our own reality, what we believe to be true, if you have a really high opinion of yourself as an intellect, and someone's telling you, like, the pharmaceutical industry, like the doctors are liars, or this or that, right? In whatever form we do it, in their mind, that's way too much, because they're smart enough that they would have known, right? That's the real issue going on for most people who just aren't getting it, is that they're trapped in their intellect, that they think, I would have known. I would know if that was happening. I know if people are trying to kill me. Like that's really how people think. They don't see that we're dealing with masters who are literally every day playing your brain chemicals and your neurological pathways like a puppeteer string. They're doing. They're puppeteering us through our brain chemicals, our neurological, conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really important aspect of it, is when you're sharing information with people, is how do you challenge it, and how do you get them to see when they're in a false paradigm and dichotomy. And I want to say, like, what I really like that Laura says a lot, and it's visiting something you said a little while ago about timelines, is I really like when she brings up like the natural timeline and the artificial timeline, because that's really what we're battling, is the artificial timeline or the natural one, where we totally separate off from that connection to spirit and source, which I'll never do. You'll never do. A lot of people I know will never do. Or do we play into the fantasy world, and we keep allowing ourselves to be conditioned and played and boxed in, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like we rely too much on like outer sources, if that makes sense. Like,
Sure.
as you were just kind of saying that, I was thinking, like, I don't know why I was still thinking about like social media and just like growing up in high school and college, just thinking about like the big like celebrity names that people look to, like the Kim Kardashian, the Kendall Jenners, and those big names. And I just couldn't get out of my head, like seeing in the past, one of the Kardashians promoting like Febreze, like bedazzled Febreze. And I remember just thinking and going, do they even use that? Do they actually use that product? Like they might, but that's when I really started going and diving into all the ingredients and all the chemicals that are in our products and whatnot. And I remember going and sitting there and going, wow, so just because she says she uses that product, she uses Febreze, every single one of those people who follow Kim Kardashian or whatever one it was, Chloe, I think, they're going to believe that she uses Febreze. And so I started to pick up on that, like in commercials and TV. And like somebody was telling me, I think it was my mom the other day, she goes, do you watch The Big Bang Theory every like so often or ever? And I go, no, not really. And she goes, wow, I noticed there's a lot of branding within the show. And I go, really? And she goes, yeah, so like they'll be like walking over to the fridge and they'll grab out like a Snapple. But every time they grab something out of the fridge, it's always like a Snapple. You can kind of tell it's that brand. Or
it's a subliminal pick. Yeah. Your brain subliminally is always seeing that.
And she even said like, even it goes to like the crackers, like it's always nut thins. It's always like wheat thins. It's always just a like one brand, and it sticks the same brand the entire, like every single episode. It's always the same kind of content. And so the subliminal messaging is so multifaceted, and those are just very broad and general, examples of how in your face it can be, but they're also doing it in such secretive ways that are corrupting the minds of our children, our, parents, our grandparents, our friends, our family, to really divide us, also that we can never meet on the same subject or meet and agree and see each other's point of view. They're always trying to divide us in so many ways. And I think that's like a root of one of the biggest problems, is just respecting like where each person, I guess, comes from, and their background and how they haven't been maybe exposed to all of those subliminal messaging that's just everywhere.
Well, you know what? It's so funny because I wasn't going to bring this up tonight because I'm trying to put more details together, because a lot of the Hollywood actors, I'm actually investigating them all of them, because I hate them all. Not the like Lola, I mean all the ones that are out there in our faces just trying to tell everyone what to do. I can't stand any of them. But most of them have ties, family ties, to high military operations, high military intelligence. Ben Affleck, one of them, from Boston. I shared a little blip of a documentary I was watching the other day showing that his family, CIA, military intelligence, and what were doing in the CIA. Oh, what was it? They were learning how to do propaganda to steer perceptions. So it's like, oh, so there's no coincidence here that a lot of these Hollywood actors, Steven Spielberg, a lot of the directors, the producers, they have family ties to military intelligence. So it is like a military, like Hollywood complex. And it is, like you said, they're masterminds. They know the human brain. They've dissected it inside and out. I mean, they've mapped it over and over again. They know what we pick up on. They know what we register consciously. They know what we register subconsciously. And it's like, we are inundated just with, and people need to realize that, because then once those lights are on, you can't close your eyes. Like, it's like when you get a car, right? You never saw, the for me, like the Land Rover R3, right? Not a nice one, a new one, right? And you're like, every time you drive a new car, you start seeing that car everywhere, and you're like, gee, yeah, now I see that car everywhere. So that's what it's like. Like you realize it, and you can't turn away from it. And then again, you have to ask yourself, why? Why do they do this? Why do they go through all of this trouble? They spend all of this money to corral our thinking and steer our perceptions. Why? What are they steering us away from? Like, what don't they want us to see? See that we're better than them? Like, not in like, oh, we're better than them way, but like, like there's the bad people, the cabal. I'll just lump it all in. The cabal, basically, they know that if we wake up, we'll realize that they need us. They need us. We don't need them. And everything they're doing is they're draining our life force. And when I think of, oh, thank you. When I think of all this wording now, like the other day I was like, forest, go to the far. I'm thinking about it in every way now. And I'm like, cell phones, right? The cell phones is to break the cellular barrier, your skin barrier. It's to get in there and taint so that you can't even so that your cellular body can't even function at a full healthy level. Like, you know what I mean? The radiation. They literally don't want us functioning. That's what it is. It's to shut down the functions. It's to only operate through the eyes and ears and not with the other senses. Because if we're only operating with eyes and ears, we're going to say, oh, I see this, I hear that. Okay. Right. You know, that nothing else is going to say, oh, but those two things contradict each other or whatnot. We have a lot of deprogramming to do. That's it.
Yeah, and what you were saying about the why, like, why are they spending so much money on distracting us from so many things? What are they so afraid for us to see? And I thought immediately of like, well, we must have been really close because 2020 was a year long of them wanting to just us see that specific chain of events unfolding. And I think it's really ironic. We were probably really close to starting to promote to a lot of people who have been maybe asleep for so long, like what's actually going on. And they had to do 2020 to really just, you know, that was really they had to, or else maybe we would have all awakened.
I believe that. I believe that too. Yeah, I'm totally in alignment with that. I think I said that like a few days ago, like in my head, like that was like, they're like, it's now or never. Like, we have to do this now. And I think it was like a satanic ritual because the whole thing, together apart, right? And then it dawned on me today when I'm vacuuming, that's actually literally on the Baphomet statue. Solve coagula. Apart together. And I'm thinking that was like the whole motto of coronavirus, how the lockdowns, you know, they really were, I think, trying to, and listen, it goes beyond this. So it's psychology they use against us, and that they use black magic against us. Just the whole, and I'm going to say this, I enjoy movies. I believe that it's an art form, and you can use acting and art in place to really open up the brain. I mean, you can introduce beautiful concepts. So I'm not dogging the art of movies, but what Hollywood is it's also a mixture of like this military operation, but what they use is they use a black magic against us. It's a druidic magic, and they know how to use the planetary alignments against us. So like that's another thing too. They want us, they take everything that could free us, and then they use it to make us focus more on the outer stuff. Like, so everyone is into astrology, not everyone, but a lot of people, they're into it for the vanity, right? They want to know how they can capitalize on it, how they can improve their life, which we all want to improve our lives. We want to have deeper insights, but do they want the deeper insights? They really just want to know, like, how can I use this to gain? And really what we can use astrology for is to like learn about gateways opening up, energetic gateways, you know, when these alignments, this, and you can set things up in your life that makes sense. But what they do is they use the alignments to use against us, to entrap us. They don't want us having that real knowledge. So it's like, we have to also understand religion, new age, all of these things are controlled also by this. So truth, yes, I don't say there's not truth in the Bible, but is it all true? No. And also, again, they used this method for years. What was William Shakespeare, right? In the 1500s, what was that? That was the same thing, Hollywood. That was Hollywood for that day. That had a major influence on the way people thought, the way people saw royalty, people actually rely on Hollywood now to view reality. You know, they think that the way it's portrayed in there is the way it really is out there. And that's really the trick, is that they're making us make things come true. Like, we're projecting this, they're projecting the future they want to create to us, and then we're doing it. Like, we're running on that program.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I got all tongue twisted.
No, what you shared is amazing, and what you're saying is I 100% agree with. And yeah, they're furthering, the enslavement of us as a society and our ability to free think and have free thought and to be sovereign and to have like willpower. And I feel like
Bingo.
the age is getting younger at which they're starting to attack, and so something that I thought of was growing up when I remember watching, Nickelodeon, Teen Nick, Disney Channel, and I don't necessarily recall seeing in the media on the shows I was watching, I don't recall seeing them have their first kiss at young ages, or there's a lot of things that I don't remember seeing in those shows, like makeup or first kisses or going on dates or any type of sexuality around it. It was very, in a sense, organic to an extent. But from what I've seen now, I feel like it has progressed where the kids who are having their first kisses on TV shows are getting younger and younger and younger. And, the first dates and shows are getting younger and younger.
And then we have to explain to kids, transgender and stuff when they start putting those into movies, into actual TV shows, and you have to explain
commercials.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I saw a commercial this morning, and it was like I don't even know. I forget the commercial, but I could tell by the song that it was drag queens. And then at the end, the two, and that's fine. I'm not judging these people, but it's about the message it's sending to my kid. That's sitting in the background, and it's a family channel.
Yeah, and that's what and that's what's hard. It's like nothing against that, but it's hard to describe those things to a child that does not have the brain capacity or the natural state to perceive what those things mean, especially when you don't have a choice, when it's being thrown like in your face and on those commercials and
they're rewiring.
Yeah, and so it's like, it's really hard where it's like you can take your kids away from those things as much as you want and do that, and but they're just slowly like closing in and just putting it everywhere to the point where you have to explain those things to your child so that they can understand this screwed up artificial reality that they're trying to make us live in. And they're forcing you to say like, all right, like I have to explain these things to my children, where before you could have the choice to not, or before that you would never even have to explain that. And so it's like, not against it being like right or wrong. It's like, it's just extremely difficult. And we've never had to experience, parents especially have never had to experience the closing in on the box of
and a lot of the times I feel like those types of individuals are represented inappropriately in the media to begin with. Like, I appreciate and respect every gender identity, every sexual identity. And I think that everybody should have the ability to express themselves how they want. But don't tell me that all of those ways that those people are represented in the media, they're even okay with too. They don't like to feel like the center of attention all the time. They don't like to be projected in a lot of those ways. And so not only is it damaging to individuals who don't believe the same way, it's damaging to them as well, because a lot of times they project them in ways that are not like appropriate or very fair. They in a lot of TV shows, there are a lot of, it's very stereotypical rather than natural in that person's like ability to express themselves. It's very like in a box, regardless of if it's masculine, feminine, or a mixture of both. It's very defined to the stereotype of the media, of how they want to portray those types of people.
And that makes all the people go against anybody who is in those categories that's transgender. It makes anybody who doesn't like that, the way they portray them to
fear them,
they portray them as a radical version or a a more swayed how they want. And then those people that don't agree with that, they're like, I hate them. Like, why? And then that's, they put them in a box. Now, everybody who's transgender fits that one person or that group of people that you saw. And then it's a division tactic now, where you could have gotten along with this person if you didn't know that they were in transitioning or had transitioned.
A lot of people don't even like to explain that to people. A lot of people who have transitioned are just somebody who's transitioned and they identify with that gender. And if that's somebody who likes to just identify with that gender, they probably don't want to see a ton of people getting outed on the media for being a little bit on one masculine or one feminine side, and so it's just it's so dangerous the way that they're stereotypically presenting and projecting different things in the media as not true or not natural, because everybody feels and thinks a certain way, but I feel like they've limited us to only see and believe and think and feel certain ways based on what they're showing us.
Because like you said, the organic people who really struggle with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
They will show the truth about what a genuine trans person goes through, the depth, what they really feel inside, the experiences they have from childhood. And that's not the goal they're trying to accomplish. They're not trying to make life better for the person who struggles. No, they see an opening to attract the youth to something that can seriously disrupt their whole identity process. And that's the whole point. They're trying to disrupt the identity process. So now they parade these things out in front of them, again, like an attraction. And again, there a lot of parents, we have to admit this. I'm sick and tired of saying, oh, a lot of people are fucked up right now. They're fucked up in the head, and they're just not there. They're not present. They're not doing the things to fulfill the child in general, because they're out trying to fill some whatever void they have. And that's just the world we're living in. And that's the majority of kids' lives, where the kid is on their own emotionally. They're emotionally on their own. They don't have a parent that is like caring about, what does that kid really feel? The parent just wants the kid to mask it so that they feel like they're doing a good job. And again, it's all that surface bullshit. And I can't stand it anymore because it's ruining the kid. So of course, the kid's not going to feel great, because who makes you feel good when you're a kid? Who makes you feel special when you're a kid? Who gives you confidence when you're a kid? Your parents, the people around you, how they look at you. My kid, if I don't give her attention for like a whole day, she's like, Mom, look at me about any little thing, because she just wants to make sure she knows that I think she's awesome. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I can't imagine what a kid goes through after weeks, years of not getting appropriate attention. They're going to start wondering, well, what's wrong with me? And then they see this kid getting all this attention, twirling around. Desmond Amazing. That poor kid is autistic, and look what they did to him.
Right.
Your kid 3 years old is saying, Mommy, I want to do drag shows. How does a kid know what a drag show is? Please. And again,
you gave me chills just now, because we were watching a lot of videos on basically those individuals who were predatory.
Lactatia, an 8-year-old boy named Lactatia.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What?
Disgusting. Like those, the hijacking. It's just disgusting. It just is just so like clear that you see that they're just trying to manipulate the minds of our next generation.
Oh, yeah, and like me and Shiloh's like generation, like growing up as a kid, we didn't have like as much technology, and so where we get attention from our parents that like needed attention, and if it wasn't if there wasn't attention there for someone that's our generation, it was like, go outside, go
with friends,
go do something, go play with your friends, get your friends over, even get your friends over.
You had a healthy outlet.
Exactly. And what was nice, like too, is like, hey, get your friends all over and play video games at the same house. And they've taken away multi console games so that you can't play with all your friends sitting on the couch. They've slowly gotten that away, and that's something I kind of realized when you're bringing that
the headphones
earlier. up is that, you know, we'd have friends come over and we'd all plug in a controller and we'd play and
On the same.
you know, that kind of stuff. And then it's those games
Now
are getting,
it's-
everybody puts their headset on. And so as a kid, it was like, you know, we'd have our friends come over and play like, hey, let's come play video games, or let's go outside, or let's go explore somewhere, or let's go do something. Well, where those kids aren't getting that attention and they would go play with their friends or go do
now
something,
they're picking up these
they're
things
on their phone.
That's it.
And
they watch other kids who
And there's no rules when it comes to this. There's no boundaries when it comes to this, especially when the parents are the ones that aren't giving you the gratification, and so the kid's forced to go on this to entertain themselves or watch.
I can't get my kids to watch it. I can't even get them to do it when I want an hour to like wash dishes.
That's amazing.
They hate it. They hate it. It's like the tech. They not that they hate it. Like they have a day where they're on it for a whole day, but that's not the baseline. It's just like that's like a rarity.
Right.
And I'm glad. And that's just like a really good point though. The game console, like you can't. I didn't know that you can't even plug. Like I couldn't come over your house and play in person. So it's like I have to be in my own setting.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's what they've done. Well, what they've done is they've made more and more games only single player. And so that when you buy the game, like you have to connect through the internet to play multiplayer. You can't even do the campaign. There's nothing.
So basically, if we buy
online.
a game that we are both interested in and it's a one-player game, he can only play that game, or we can trade off, but we can't actually like play together. And I feel like the games and the like options of technology have limited, so it is isolating rather than actually community and communicative between people and actually like a connection that you're building, and rather it's more of a solo connection that you can maybe reach other people, but not all the time.
And like Dylan said, like it brought me back to so many memories, like living and just like we would be screaming, come outside, you know what I mean? And like there was always like you could play kickball at any time of day. All you had to do was just walk outside and find kids. And now like I noticed this, and I'm not bragging about myself, but when I take my kids out to the park, all the other kids are playing with us. Like they're like treating me like I'm their friend, because my kids are friendly. I teach them to like, you know, be welcoming, talk to other people. And you can tell like how close off people are. And it was so nice here the other day. So we went to the park. It was crowded, and then, you know, all the moms are just with their masks on their phone, and it's sad. You know, it's sad, but. Another aspect I want to get in is the gender thing. Think about the contrast to like what they did to my mom's generation. Like my mom she's 62. She came from like this crazy mentality. Like she was prejudiced against like gay people. She didn't like that. She used the fag word, like she used that. And I remember saying to my brother when he was younger, like, you better never tell me you're a fag. Like, and I felt like, wow, that's horrible. Like I remember like having that in my head, like, what the fuck? And I was always very different. My mom was a very like, she grew up in like the North End, which is like the Italian section of Boston. It's just everyone was like a street person. They grew up like thinking they're all gangsters. So she like just talks like that in general. But I'm like, that's so horrible. And I think about a lot of people in her generation are like that, right? So you go from like people that aren't willing to talk about it. So if you were like that growing up, like say in my time or even before that, you weren't flaunting it around. You were dealing with it. And that's really sad too. And that's really lonely too. And, you know, you think about it like that, they really had a perfect opening is what I'm leading up to, is because there was no sympathy. There was no conversation about it at all. So now it's like, here it is. These people exist. And if you don't accept this, if you don't want it being just mainstream in your child, known to your 5-year-old, then you're a bigot. You know, I think that's how they're controlling that situation.
Right. Or if you're out like that, then you don't get if you're not out like that, then you don't get the attention. Like if you're someone who's struggling with those things and you're not completely out to the main public and you're doing all the things that everybody else, that fits those qualities or characteristics do, then you're not as supported. And now you are more isolated and you are like stuck dealing with that on your own. And so it's like, yeah, coming to the agreement to at least just respect each other for who we are, and not the ego, or not the projected reality of what we're trying to make ourselves seem, and rather just like, yeah, accept that, you know, sometimes we're wrong, and sometimes we have like things to learn and from each other and from people we don't agree with too. And so I really appreciated all the things that you.
Oh, thank you. You too. I want to talk about this one last thing, because I think we can run a little over. But why the obsession with the denial of the reality of what a trans person really is? Like, why does it have to be like just to say like you're a trans female, which means you transition from a male to a female. You can't say that. You have to just say they're a female. That's it. They're not a trans female. They are a female. Why is it like that is such a, that's what gets me. It's like, why that I have to pretend that these people have periods. I have to pretend something to validate someone else's delusion. And again, it's only a delusion because they're trying to tell me that they get their period. That's why it's a delusion. It's not a delusion because they say they feel like a woman. That's the truth. But when you're trying to tell me that I have to deny, again, it's like with the athletic thing, right? They're trying to say that there is no, there's no advantage, right? Yes, there is, because they were born bio-male. That means they carry gravity different, and I think the evidence is showing that all the trans girls are winning all the races. It must be true, right? That there's an advantage. So it's like, why are they so obsessed with not saying we have to accept this and let these people be who they are, not give them a hard time, not challenge them, not try to make them confront whatever they are. But why is it that we have to pretend? That's what it is. Why?
Right.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's like, because it's already before, like traditionally, it's like how it's always been historically as male and female. And so it's like, it's like you say, like, it's funny that we are like protecting the space for people with who are transgender, rather than just allowing us to kind of like be mutual, but like still have the boundary set up for male and female, because that's what we've always historically had, and set boundaries for that in a sense, but still allow for transgender to be classified into all these different aspects, but to get along, but to say like, hey, we still want to preserve male and female, like and it's like, so there needs to be this, and it's all the confusion in the media and stuff too, and it's like
the terminology is really difficult too, and
it like gets you going and stuff. Like, yeah, like I saw that video of that you did on Instagram of like of them getting their periods, and like the picture,
having
and it's
to
like,
explain that to your daughter.
That stuff, like
not
stuff is there are transgender people out there that are promoting that and saying like, yeah, I do, but it's like, that's not the majority, but that's what the delusion is, like, or the illusion of everybody sees that. And it's like, you get frustrated because it's like, that's not right. That's not like, what are you doing? Like, that's not, and it's like something that's just trying to, it's like in your face, like, haha, like you can't
confuse the mind. It's to confuse their mind, right? Because like, it's like my daughter, I don't believe in lying to children. So I believe if a child is curious enough to ask, you explain it, the truth, in the way that the child's going to perceive it and take it in a healthy way. So she knows she knows I get a monthly period, right? She knows why. She knows I'm a woman. I'm different than daddy and whatever. If she was to see that billboard, all these men in their man underwear, that's freaking confusing. And then it's like, is my mom a liar? Like, what? And then they're gonna, and then you never know. That's the thing about kids. You never know how they internalize things. So one kid might say, Mom, I saw this thing and this happened. What the hell? And then the other kid might be like, oh, I don't want to do that to my mom. I don't want to, John. Like, you just don't know. And to me, it's a very negligent thing they're doing, and they have to know. They have to know, because aren't they experts? Aren't they child psychology experts? Isn't it just known that if you expose kids to certain information, they're going to take it on or be confused by it. Like, that should be known. Like I've said many times, tell my kid she can be a unicorn. She'll choose that because it's attractive, because she thinks being a unicorn is awesome and it's, flying and rainbows and da da da. But then that's like me saying, I'm a unicorn now, and you have to believe that.
Right. I really think it's destruction of the family. I really think it's programming children to not accept or become familiar with the family dynamic. Because as you're talking about that, I was just thinking about the feminism movement and just how it is proven to be CIA led. And so there are a lot of, there's a lot of destruction there. I feel like, for example, with that picture, like right there, that in my mind is kind of like destruction of the family, because with what you explained about your daughter, or, any children or any child that would see that, like, what are the questions that go through their head? Is my mom lying to me if they have told me like the truth? Is my dad lying to me if he's told me the truth? And then what do I do with that? How do I, as a child, interpret that information and then have a perspective of how I see the rest of my life going? Am I still that little girl who sees themselves marrying, their husband in a fairy tale wedding? Or is now my perspective completely changed? And it's not that that's not okay. It's just that wasn't that child's choice.
Right, exactly. Thank you. They are taking the choice. They're taking the organic, natural, growing experience for each, and it's also about the individual. It's about cutting the individual, like you said. They present. It's like with celebrities, like you mentioned Kim Kardashian, the Kardashians. Well, they also promote a lot of pharmaceuticals as well, right, which then we know that they also invest in a lot of the pharmaceuticals. So it's like this whole system, like all around us, where the people are getting tighter and tighter. It's like, so now it's like actors are also pharmaceutical reps too, it's like, so, but the kids, they don't have an identity. So when they see these archetypes, that's the word I was looking for, these archetypes of people, and then they're told, choose one of these to be in life, you're totally like disrupting their whole self identity, the way they view self identity, the way they value it. There's really no value on it right now.
Yeah,
it's just everyone wants to validate it too. Like they want you to validate everything to them.
And something I thought that I just had when looking at that picture that was brought up, the transgender males, they are, like, if you notice, even not just transgender males, but males in general, all having colored hair, like when I was growing up, was not like
flamboyant. That was cool.
It was cool. But guys wouldn't be doing colored hair like that.
Not like that.
When I was growing up, that was like a really kind of like a weird frowned upon thing. Like you weren't being masculine. But now it's through the media. Everybody, certain actors, certain people, like the male. I've noticed male characters that they'll have the pink hair now. They'll have the green hair. They'll have the blue hair. Back when it was like all these boys would be having, maybe red hair or but you tell hey, maybe you could do if it got too bright of a color, the male would be
that's girly.
That's girly.
Whatever.
I'm not going with that. But it's just crazy. Now I see so many young boys who are getting all their hair color changed any color, and there's no, it's not being frowned upon. And not saying that it ever should have been frowned upon, but why is that changing? And that's where we should also be looking, is that, like you said, they're taking away the organic, natural, because before it was, oh, I don't want that hair color because it is girly, but they already had that connotation to be able to think that that's girly, but now they're thinking that it's not girly. And so it's they keep, changing it back and forth to just get your mind to, what's okay and what isn't for the divine masculine and the divine feminine to really what's, just to keep them never keep them
connected
always
to
apart.
source.
Never connected to source, exactly. Never connected to self. It's to make them say like, oh, if I like literally, there are people who can't get dressed without somebody telling them what looks good. What they rely on. I mean, I can't believe how a lot of girls live. I wouldn't last a day in that life. I wouldn't last a day in that life. I could never get
That's
up
the exact picture.
every day.
That's what I was talking about. The Febreze. Yeah. All of her followers, every single person that, and it's that same thing, but with everybody,
Like imagine needing a glitter Febreze to make yourself feel like you're something in life. You've made it. You've got that glitter Febreze. Woo! You've made it in life.
And then that's where, like, when you're at the store and you're a big follower
and you're
there, either you subconsciously or you consciously do it. But regardless, you're like, oh, hey, I saw that she was doing that. I'll grab one. Or you're like, oh, I need Febreze. And you don't know why you grabbed it, but it's because you're so connected and you idolize these people that you subconsciously just buy these things without even knowing it.
And what's she thinking of? What's her goal? Let me just tell you, I've seen clips of this woman saying, when in her earlier days, I just want to make $1 billion. I just want to be a billionaire. So I'm sure she's not caring about her fans and how they are really doing. The woman's focusing on making her billion. Well, she's probably already there now, but you know what I mean.
Right.
That's what these people care about, and it's like everybody rather believe that they are connected to Kim Kardashian because they have that glitter Febreze. It shows there's a real something going on there. People they can't. No, it's like there's something going on there that they hate themselves. It's an apathy. It's a symptom of apathy, I think, because for me, I always was the type of person, if I liked something and I bought it or started wearing it, and the second I saw 2 people, 3 people, I'm like, heck no, never again. Goodbye. I'm not putting that on ever. Because I would feel like robbed of that, individual
identity
expression. Yeah, like because for me it was like I know I just saw that I genuinely just was organically liked it, and then you think other people, why are they doing it? And it's like, oh, they're just doing it because
I feel
so and so do it.
People don't have the ability to connect to like what they truly like, who they truly are, what they truly resonate with, what their passions are, what they really like, what evokes that like emotion and like care and contentment and passion and happiness within you. And instead people just externalize it and just always are looking for something to make them feel better instead of like looking into themselves and asking like, what do I need to see that's going to make me feel better? Is turning on the TV and the news or YouTube in general going to completely ruin my day? Or is it going to make me happier? And if I do decide to do that, do I know what I'm going to watch? Do I have intention behind what I'm doing? Like, is there like that shirt? You like that shirt because that's something that you connected with. You organically like that shirt. You were like, wow, I vibe with that shirt. I resonate with it. But then, other people who see you wearing that shirt, they connect with that because you're wearing that shirt, And so it's just like, instead of people looking within themselves and going like, what do I like? What do I want to see? What do I want to view? What do I want to consume? What do I want to put on my body? It's what are they doing? Who's doing that? What did they say about that? Oh, if they said that was okay, I'll do it too.
And like you said in the beginning too, what the heck was that? I just lost my whole train of thought. I was gonna say in the beginning you said something, and what you just said made me think of that.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't
know where I was going.
You said earlier about medication too. Like you said.
Oh, actually, that's where I was going. Thank you.
Got you.
Like for me, I can say this sounds exactly like how when I was addicted to drugs. Okay, I would feel good, right? When I would have my pills, that would be how I went about my day. But then when you don't have it, and you're left with that emptiness, that feeling, and that no motivation, you can't do nothing, you don't want to do nothing. even if you could do something, you mentally, you can't because you're focused. Your whole life is consumed trying to fill the void, right? And like that's how I feel like most people are living. Like they're just trying to fill the void, trying to numb that out for as long as possible. When that numbing runs out, then they move on to the next thing, which is why people can't hold good relationships. Because the whole reason they want relationships in general isn't because they're a complete person and they feel like, I think actually I never even had ever been motivated to meet somebody. I never like, oh, I want to meet someone. Just never. Not saying that's wrong. A lot of people they like that. They like having that male energy. They love that. I get it. But I just never connected with that. But a lot of people, they don't want to just meet someone organically. They want someone there. That's it. They just want someone there. And then when they want that someone there, they want that new person there because they want that new person to see them the way that they want to represent themselves and reinvent themselves. But then the true them always peers through. And when the other person starts to see, what's really behind, that's when the people freak out and then they can't be in the relationship anymore because it's causing discomfort. Because they're either having to confront, the flaw. I don't believe in flaws. So that, to people, though, they think it's a flaw. Or they just find someone who will see them in the light they want to be seen in. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at that.
Thank you for that.
I love
No, I'm glad she just put that up because it does show. Like it used to be about respect, intimacy, but like you brought up boundaries. That's super important. Our boundaries are very important. They prove to us our own worth and our own value to ourselves. When you're willing to stick to a boundary, not let someone plow you over or do whatever, manipulate you, use you. And we live in this use and abuse culture where now guys want to go dance because they just want to get a good rub in it, right? That's what that looks like. And then it's like the young boys. I remember actually when I was in 9th grade, we went to this local club, the BBC, and they would have like 18 and under night. And we would go there and like the girls would have to literally like form a circle around each other because the boys would just come up and hump you. And it was like so invasive. And I like just hated that. It was really weird, but it was like, what the hell? Boys your own age was really gross, like and horny. And I get it's like a little natural, but that was normal, like because that's what the music promoted, just grabbing up a girl and
right.
Yeah, and we've really gotten into that a lot, is that those guys don't know how to those guys don't have been taught their whole life and have had through different psyops and different tactics of taking also all the psyops on women cause men to not be able to get with women naturally, and so they have all this pent up sexual energy. And so when like you said, you can't blame them. But at the same time, it's that's no excuse, but that's society has sculpted that to where women, if you think about it, the way I kind of view it is traditionally or historically, if the man wanted to have sex with the woman, the man would do that. If you think of Neanderthalic or caveman, the man would just do that. But now women hold sex. It's the man has to please the woman for her to give the male the sex, and the man sitting here going, "What the hell is I should be able to
tie into a dog." That's what they do. It's really sick. It's really sick.
And I think women have women take advantage of it too. They hold certain sexual, I guess, sexual acts at different levels. Where can that happen if the guy treats you well and you guys do have an organic and natural and healthy relationship, or are you still going to hold sex over the guy's head? And in reverse, if you guys don't have a healthy and natural sexy relationship, then it's just it's just so much manipulation on both sides. Oh my gosh, that's so real. That's real. Women have been taught to respect themselves, but then also respect themselves in all the contrasting of where women value themselves. they do socially sometimes, but sometimes not sexually. And it's like, it's just, there's so many like, yeah, psychological operations that we feel have like implanted women and men to literally not be able to find that healthy like agreement.
That union, they don't want us to have that true union. Because imagine, I think about it all the time. Like, just in my own relationship, I think about like if certain things weren't there, right? Like just like how much we could grow off each other. Like I really do. I think about things like that all the time, and I have a fairly healthy relationship. But there are, there are life blockages, and that's what makes the difference between loving someone and being willing to be there and work through and help them grow, right? Because you also grow when you help others grow. When you stick through situations with people, and you like build that and you build a bond. Like there's another dimension that gets added to your relationship. But people don't really care about that. But that picture, that said it all, because women now, they don't view, it's so interesting because the more we get knowledge of that, like we're separate beings, we're spirit, we're souls, but we're bodies. It's like the less respect people are having for the body. So like they look at their body as a means. Yeah, exactly. Like look how little those kids are. Oh my God.
Wow.
Wow.
I remember at my 5th grade slow dance. We were having like the outdoor thing where you play all the sports, and at the end of the summer, the end of the school year. And the song that we were slow dancing was "Let Me Lick You Up and Down Till You." I'm not kidding. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine. Then the DJ's playing it we're in a schoolyard. If I ever seen that, I go up to the DJ now and I'd be like, "You pervert, you dirty mother."
I remember they're playing like Low by like Flo Rida at our school dances and stuff.
Yeah,
like, everybody got low, low, and all the girls are like, like twerking and stuff. And it's like, what the? Yeah, no.
I grew up in like this, the inner city too. So I can't imagine what it's like now. I can't.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Wow. So guys, this was really great, and I really appreciate you guys staying on longer with me.
No, of course, we love it. We loved having like the ability to communicate with you about all these different subjects, because not often are people, willing to get uncomfortable and like, just see where the conversation goes in terms of like those big topics, because a lot of people just don't like maybe even disagreeing or feeling like somebody just doesn't agree to the same extent that they do, And so it's just really awesome to be able to have this conversation and be so open-minded.
I like the points you bring up a lot, like about that, because it actually isn't super important to recognize that when you don't align with someone and what they're saying or agree totally, you can have a conversation. It doesn't have to be a confrontation. And people need to start valuing. I have to pat myself on the shoulder. I've always valued the second anytime I ever encounter information that goes is challenges what I'm going to look it up. I'm going to research. I'm not going to immediately tell a person, "You're wrong, I'm right," because I don't even think I'm right. I don't believe anything until it's really proven to be true. So it's like I see like we're all on a path here, and this is why it's so important to know who you are as an individual. Because what we do bring to the table, no matter where we're all at in our spiritual journey, on our physical journey here, you have something that's going to offer and add to the whole picture. And just because everyone's pieces are different, no one's piece is more valuable. It is just as valuable, just like in a family unit, right? Like there's mom's not more valuable than the dad, but there's different value in the different aspects. See, that's the balance that I'm trying to get to really have in my own life, and that we all should try to aspire, because I think it is really about balance. I feel like you can't have anything without balance, and these kids are getting very imbalanced information and very imbalanced signals. So before we go, where can people find you guys, and how would you?
You can find us on Instagram at Wheeler's Wild Ones or online at wheelerswildones.com.
Awesome. And Dylan, do you want to say any things before we go?
No, I think that's about it. Just where we really appreciate it and appreciate you guys, and we appreciate the pictures thrown up too. That was great.
Yes.
So,
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for tonight, and yeah, we're looking forward to
We'd
do
love
more
to have
stuff
you
with
on our
Sophia.
show soon too. And yeah, you could find us on YouTube at Wheeler's Wild Ones. We don't have very many videos up, but we'd love to have you on.
And you have your website there, She Legit Retailers. That's where I ordered mine, and my life is very improved. I'm serious. My cognitive functions. I was having a lot of like mental blips like a lot throughout the day, and I do that every morning, and I go through my chores with ease. I'm not like scattered. I really feel like a difference. I do.
Good.
So I wanted to bring that, make sure people know that wheelerswildones.com. So you are listening to Truth, Freedom, and Sophia. Thank you so much. Again, you can catch all of our shows live on onthewakeupradio.com. Catch our replays on Google, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and support us on PayPal at onthewakeupradio@gmail.com. Again, check out our new streaming site, OTW Tube. Again, this is Truth, Freedom, and Sophia. Thanks for watching.